How's it going, everyone? My name is Skylar. I'm the Director of Operations here at Extreme ROI, and we've become super deeply ingrained in Simpletics with everything they do from manufacturing to advertising, all the way to fulfillment. So we've become really close business partners and friends with them, so I'm glad to have the opportunity to speak on their behalf here today.
And my name's Kylie. I'm from Perpetua. I work on our programmatic advertising team, working closely with Skylar over there at Extreme ROI to optimize and launch campaigns on the Amazon DSP. I'm excited to be chatting with you today. So to kick us off, Simpletics sits at the intersection of wellness, self-care, and community. Take us back to the beginning. What was the original vision, and how has that evolved as the Amazon business has grown?
Yeah, so originally the brand was created by Dylan Latham. He is the influencer behind it all. Right? It was started as mainly a sea salt spray company, with most of the traffic coming directly from his Instagram posts, his TikToks, directly back to their website. And as it's grown on Amazon, we've not only been able to reach a more broad audience, right, with people who are looking for certain product types that we offer, but also allowing us to grow in those categories and expand our product like hair type.
And wellness, it's a crowded label. Every brand claims that they're a wellness brand. So how did you define your lane, and how do you protect that positioning as the category gets more competitive?
Yeah, the biggest thing I would say is definitely the minimal formulas. So the sea salt spray has 5 ingredients, the texture powder has 4 ingredients, and the clay has 6 ingredients. And this is what sets us apart from a lot of the competition. A lot of the competition are using definitely more ingredients that might be harmful to people's hair. And we want to educate people that there's a better option, and that's Simpletics.
And there's real tension between staying true to a mission and scaling a business. Where did you feel that most, and how have you navigated it?
Yeah, so I'd say the biggest tension point and challenge, especially when we were first coming onto Amazon, is definitely there's a lot of low-cost products within the same category, right? And whether that be from, like I touched on before, harsh chemicals, worse ingredients, those all exist, and we're coming in with a more premium product at a more premium price. So we kind of have to navigate that and educate our customers that this is what we do, this is what we stand for, and this is why you should choose Simpletics over a lower cost option that might be dominating the category right now.
And while we're here, what role did Amazon ads play in helping you move beyond lower funnel conversion and invest in long-term brand building?
Yeah, so DSP is definitely a big factor there, right? Obviously, DSP allows us to have an extended amount of reach both on platform and off platform through display ads and video ads, which we haven't gotten into as much now, but display ads is definitely something we've been doing more. And then also leveraging Amazon ads to just increase our sales volume so that we can increase ranking in respective categories. For example, sea salt spray, we want to become pillars of those categories, so to speak. And we want people to be able to shop the category without knowing what Simpletics is and see us at the top there. I think that builds a big amount of trust and comfort in the brand.
Yeah. Coming from the DSP side, I could not agree more.
Yeah.
And how have tools like Performance Plus allowed you to reach high intent audiences while still re-engaging shoppers throughout the journey?
Yeah, so Performance Plus is definitely still relatively new to Simpletics, right? Obviously, it's a newer feature on Amazon in general. It came out in the last year or two, I believe, right? So it's definitely something that's newer. We've been playing around with it. A lot of what we do right now is building out full funnel campaign strategies using their pre-made line items where it targets customer acquisition, remarketing, and retention, but it's still in more of a testing phase now. So definitely good performance, especially on the sea salt sprays, and some of the other products are catching up as well.
And how do you think about measurement? What metrics actually matter to you? And have those metrics changed as the brand has matured?
Yeah, I think tacos is a major one, right? I think every brand is always looking at tacos because it's going to tell them a lot about how successful they are on Amazon and how profitable they are as a brand on Amazon. But a big one we looked at for Simpletics is definitely unbranded searches versus branded searches, especially from the start to now. Obviously, when we first started on Amazon, there was a lot of branded searches coming from this halo effect that Dylan produced with his content, right? People already knew Simpletics. They wanted to know if it was on Amazon. Versus now, since we've expanded into the categories, we've increased our ranking, there's a lot more unbranded traffic to our detail pages. That's interesting to see. And that's something we definitely look at.
And how do you balance short-term performance metrics with long-term brand equity?
Yeah, so in terms of short-term performance, it's a big factor of we not only want to convert on the customer right now, but we want them to become a long-term repurchaser of the brand. And that's what we tend to see with our brand in general, right? Our repurchase rate is really high. So a lot of the steps and the challenges to get there are just getting them in the door and getting them educated enough to make the choice to try it. And then once they try it, they tend to stick to it.
It's all about lifetime value.
That's all it is. All right.
That's all I got for you right now.
All right. Well, I got a few questions for you. Hopefully I can reach my laptop here, but walk us through how you think about advertising strategy for a brand at this stage. What are the key levers and how do you decide where to focus first?
For a brand at this stage, I would think about where demand already exists and where you have to build demand for your brand, knowing you want to go from maybe more of a niche brand to a broader category. So to start, where demand already exists on Amazon, you want to think about your sponsored ads, starting with sponsored products, looking at keyword targeting, competitor targeting, and protecting your own branded searches. And then once that feels steady and stable, that's where you can go into discovery of building more of that demand. When you think about discovery, you want to target shoppers who maybe are browsing the category but aren't familiar with your specific brand. So that could extend to sponsored brands or even a DSP remarketing campaign. And then I think the third stage and where Simpletics is at to date is looking at incremental reach and driving demand via the Amazon DSP. So with the Amazon DSP, you have access to awesome lifestyle segments and out of category in-market segments where you can show your ads both on Amazon and on really cool third-party websites that resonate with your customers the most. So those are the three that I would kind of focus on, starting with creating your own, capturing your own demand, working on discovery, and then creating that incremental.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. I think sponsored is great for demand capture. And then as you move up to sponsored brand, sponsored display, and then DSP, you're generating that demand, right, through display ads. So definitely agree with you. All right. Full funnel marketing gets talked about constantly, but execution is where it gets complicated. What does a full funnel approach actually look like in practice for a brand like Simpletics? From first discovery all the way to loyal repeat customer.
So a full funnel approach is all about sequencing your different ad formats to guide along the user journey. So if we start at the very top of funnel with awareness, what that could look like is a streaming TV ad or a custom image display ad where you're introducing your brand and your story to a new customer segment. And then as you move down the funnel to consideration, what this might look like is re-engaging shoppers with sponsored brands or a DSP retargeting campaign where they're browsing within the category, but they're not sure if they want to make a purchase from your brand yet. And then when we get to that bottom funnel or lower funnel stage, that's really about capturing shoppers when they're already searching and familiar with your product or brand. So at that stage, really hitting it home with your DSP remarketing campaigns, and then even retention campaign can really help drive sales and create that lifetime value for your brand.
Definitely. All right. How do you think about layering streaming TV, multimedia solution, and Amazon DSP and performance formats together instead of treating them as silos?
I think the key with this is thinking of them as complementary signals instead of in isolation. So with those different formats, the key there is audiences and measurement, which the Amazon Marketing Cloud greatly offers to us. So if you think about a streaming TV campaign, you're reaching a very broad audience category potentially who are newer to your brand with a high impact non-skippable video format that tells your brand story, but you're not immediately getting users to your product detail pages. And that's where you can use AMC audiences to really drive shoppers to your product detail pages. So what we love to do at Perpetua is create an AMC retargeting campaign focused on users who have been exposed to your streaming TV campaign, but maybe haven't actually made it to your product detail page yet. And then through that, in a display ad, you're actually driving users to your product pages to read more about your products and search through your product images. And then ultimately, eventually they're going to learn about your brand, do a search for your product and purchase it, or you can use remarketing ads as well to drive that sale. So it's really about looking at how your measurement and audiences can be combined to drive those conversions down the funnel. And we actually see via AMC data at Perpetua that the more upper funnel activations you have, the better your lower funnel conversion rates are, just because users are more familiar with your brand.
Awesome. Yeah, and I think that drives back to what you were saying earlier about just kind of guiding people down the funnel, right? So upper funnel, you're getting more of that reach, and then you're kind of trying to guide them towards your product page until they eventually make a purchase, right? A lot of growing brands struggle with knowing when to scale spend versus when to pull back. How do you help brands make that call?
I think to make that call, it's a combination of efficiency signals and demand signals. So to start with your efficiency signals, are you seeing your conversion rates increase? Is your tacos efficient? Are you seeing a good return on your advertising budget? And if the answer is yes to all of those, I think it just makes sense to scale your budgets and move upper funnel. And then once that's stable, looking at your demand signals. So are you seeing your branded searches increase? Is your organic rank increasing? Are you seeing a larger market share from your ads? And then basically what you want to do is build upon that momentum and just continue to scale your campaigns to a point where it makes sense. I'd say on the other hand, if you're seeing your incremental sales plateau or overall just your efficiency going down, that's the point where you'd want to optimize, make some changes, and see when it would actually make sense to scale again. And then I would say always remember your retail readiness as well. So if you don't have a strong foundation with a high review count, strong ratings, strong inventory, your advertising is going to suffer on behalf of that.
What signals, data, or behavioral tell you that it's time to lean in?
Some of the strongest signals would be high new-to-brand customer rates, a second being branded search, showing that your awareness is growing over time, and then ultimately what your repeat purchase rate is, because obviously you want to grow your customer base, but you also want to retain them over time to see that long-term growth.
Yeah. Our customers aren't just buyers, they're a community. As we scale, how do we keep that relationship authentic in our advertising?
Great question. A community is a big part of your brand's value, and you want to amplify that, not replace it with your advertising. So I think one of the best ways you can do this is through your creative and messaging. Focus on customer reviews, testimonials, or real use cases of your product in their everyday lives, and amplify that voice that your community has. They're the ones who know and love you, and you want to take advantage of that in your advertising.
Community loyalty is a core element of who we are, but it can be hard to quantify it in an advertising context. How do you help a brand translate emotional connection into measurable performance?
Definitely agree with you that it can be intangible, but there are ways to quantify it. The top ones that come to mind for me would be repeat purchase rate. Are, shoppers willing to come back and try your brand again? And then a step further from that would be subscribe and save rate. So that's a longer term commitment with your brand, and they're enjoying your products and want to continue buying from you. And then the third would be comparing your new to brand customer mix with your repeat purchase customer mix and seeing if both of those are scaling over time. Repeat purchase is the strongest indicator of brand loyalty. And at Perpetua, we've actually built out dashboards focused on Amazon Marketing Cloud lifetime value and customer journey to make sure that brands have the ability to look at that and optimize and build with their community.
Awesome. Yeah. And that's kind of what I was touching on earlier as well, is that repeat purchase rate really matters because obviously as a brand, we can say that we have all natural ingredients. We can say that we have minimal formulas, but if we're also not giving the great results, then they're not going to come back and buy again. So that's why we're looking at a repurchase rate, and it's really high. So people are obviously enjoying the product and they're liking the results they're getting with it.
And I have one last question for you. If there's one mindset shift that helped Simpletics move from niche to normalized, what was it?
Yeah, so as I was saying earlier, it started as an influencer brand, right? And I think when we brought it over to Amazon, it was kind of testing how it would do in a broader market, right? And once we realized that there was a lot of people who wanted to try Simpletics who didn't even know about Dylan necessarily, right? And there was a lot more there. So there's a lot of potential to grow on Amazon. And that's kind of what we strive to do while still staying true to what Simpletics means, keeping the formulas small, keeping the ingredients all natural, and then just building great products.
Awesome.
Yeah. Awesome. That's very much it.
Great job.
I think that went pretty well.